host, if you will, David Octavius Tiberius, the alleged backyard, one-time knockout, straight-edge, hardcore, Hall of Famer hero, and the Hurricane himself, Shane Helms. Shane, how are you here on a Thursday night, June 3rd? Shane?
I'm doing great, man. How you guys doing?
Pause for significant dramatic effect there.
You're going to give Damien a heart attack when you keep doing that, just so you know.
And I'm already on my last murmurs. David, how are you here on a Thursday?
Yeah, you know what? I'm doing great. We survived the heat wave in Milwaukee. It was like 97 degrees here a couple days ago. And, yeah, it's just fantastic. Because, you know, I'm built for heat. You know what I mean? So I love this kind of weather.
What do you mean built for heat? What does that mean?
It means I'm fat. I hate this kind of weather.
Well, fans, we're coming last night off the heels of AEW and NXT, two big broadcasts, two newsworthy broadcasts from both companies. We'll dig into those in just a moment. I want to remind you, wherever you're watching us, be sure to subscribe and follow along with us. Firstly, on Twitter at PWR360, where we're broadcasting live on Periscope, and also on YouTube, where we're also live. You can subscribe to the show and turn on your notifications so that you never miss an episode of the Pro Wrestling Report. And then again on Facebook. Like our page on Facebook. You can watch us live on all those platforms, including, of course, our home, Fight TV. And you'll never miss an episode of the Pro Wrestling Report. In fact, speaking of episodes, guys, we are bringing you much more again this week. Of course, NXT TakeOver in Your House is this Sunday. We'll be bringing you Be the Booker on Friday night after SmackDown, where these two, Dave and Shane, will take a look at how they would fantasy book the NXT In Your House TakeOver event. And last time, Shane, you, of course, mind of a wrestler and a booker, you defeated Dave Heroes, or your booking rather was better than what turned out to be reality from what Dave Hero had to say. So we'll see what happens.
He guessed better as the finishes is what it was. He's a better guess.
He put time and effort into it?
No, he just maybe. I don't know.
Well, let's get right down to it, folks. Guys, what do you want to start with this week? AEW or NXT? It's your choice.
You know, we kind of bastardized NXT last time.
We never got to it.
We never got to it. So maybe we should start off with the black and gold team this week.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, let's do that. And let's start with how the show ended. A huge ending to the show as we saw a new champion crowned, but we also saw something that was very, very surprising. El Hijo, is it El Hijo? El Hijo.
El Hijo. Hijo.
El Hijo became the NXT Cruiserweight champion, and that was the finals. But it was really more so what happened after the matchup. We followed the journey of Drake Maverick over the last few weeks, having been released from WWE several weeks back, yet still participated in this tournament, went all the way to the finals, and walked out of the show last night on the USA Network. He didn't leave with the championship, but he did leave with something else he did not expect, and that is a brand new NXT contract. A true great story for Drake Maverick. Went from fired to working. Went from fired to working without a contract to getting a new contract, all in front of our very eyes over the course of the last several weeks on television. Shane, what's your take on this entire situation? Drake making it to the finals and now getting another contract with WWE.
On a personal level, very happy for what Drake did. You know, when he first got released and he put out that video, you know, there was a mixed bag of emotions, I think, from a lot of guys. Like, the macho side of us is like, why this dude crying so much? Like, damn, be a man. They'll be a man about it. But at the same time, the emotions were so raw. They were so real. Like, you couldn't help but feel for the guy. And then he turned it into a good opportunity for himself. So, you know, hats off to him for what he accomplished with that. And it's been a really good story. You know, the whole run through this Cruiserweight tournament became about Drake Maverick. You know, his story became bigger than the actual Cruiserweight tournament. You know, I cared more about what happened to Drake than I did about who was going to be the champion. Now, is that necessarily necessarily what you want out of a championship tournament. Maybe not, but it's what happened. So overall, it was a feel-good moment. Him getting the rehired from the company that fired him in the midst of a pandemic. But at least we did get that little bit of ray of sunshine.
It's interesting, Shane. Last week on this program, we talked about, is there a definition of a greater company man in the current time than that of Drake Maverick? But you got to wonder, is this all just a little too perfect?
How do you mean?
The story that was told, the firing, him still being allowed to participate in the tournament, and then getting a contract after. I'm not going to go as far as to say this was all part of the story, but damn, it really worked out conveniently to be a great story.
Yeah, well, he lives there, so, a lot of talent that was located right there near the performance center or, within 100-mile radius, that he probably wouldn't have happened unless he would have flew himself down to Orlando every single week. So if it actually was planned like this, start to finish, and I'll take my hat off to him. That was just great. It was just taking the best guys and really running the ball.
Got a bit of a connection challenge with you there, Shane. It's almost like you were singing a song to us a few moments ago.
No, it was like he was being Mixelplick, saying everything backwards is what it seemed to me. So.
Mixelplick?
Yeah. You never heard of Mixelplick, one of Superman's greatest arch nemesis?
Are these villains written down somewhere so that I can follow along? And
I can't spell the name, but I'm telling you that name is definitely off.
It's Mixelplicks. So you got syllables, Mixelplicks.
Yeah, but it's not spelled like how it is. It's not. There's no phonetically way to spell it. You know what I mean?
We'll get Shane back on in a minute here, guys. Thank you.
I think Shane's in the Phantom Zone.
There he
is.
Holy, welcome back, Shane. Sorry about that challenge there. All right, we'll let his internet get caught up to us. But Dave, Drake Maverick. There's no secret. You're a friend of his. You've been talking this whole scenario.
When he got released, he mentioned about how the tournament was coming up. They had already filmed vignettes reintroducing him to the NXT audience for the tournament, and they're like, "Well, hey, if you still want to go through with it, we'll still go through with it." And I don't know if the plan from then was for him to be in the finals, but it's kind of hard to not want to cheer for him because the story was, hey, if he loses, he's done. And it was like the little engine that could. And once again, Drake Maverick proves that they never gave him much to work with when he was there, but whenever he would grab onto something, whether it be the AOP and pissing his pants or creating his own buzz for the 24/7 title, he did that. Now again here. So for Drake Maverick to go through all that, he did work those matches without a contract. There were no guarantees whatsoever that they were going to bring him back. It was a win-win for him because his stock was going to increase. Other companies are going to now see him being featured for 3, 4, or 5 weeks in the tournament. And if he doesn't resign, well, his value will never be higher than what it is right now. And if he does sign, it's a win. So he wins no matter what would have happened for him. And super happy for the guy. He's had a crazy last 6 months or so. And to see him back up the ramp, and there's Triple H putting his arm around him and giving him that contract, it was great. I mean, I didn't know what was going to happen. He was teasing on Twitter about TNA Slammiversary. Maybe he's going there. Who knew? So that was, one of the rumors. But to see him re-sign the contract with NXT, I thought was great. The only challenge I see for Drake Maverick going forward is he's no longer the underdog because he made it to the finals. So he can't keep being the underdog now in every match because it's proven that he does have what it takes to win.
And that is the question. What is next?
What would you guys have done if you would have tore the contract up?
Well,
And then,
I
and
would
then he
I
did
would
the A like Brad after the screw job. Then he made the big symbols.
Yeah, I don't know if he would have gotten out of the performance center. You know, I think Hunter would have pedigreed him right there on the ramp. So, but it was a great story, and and you know what? He's a good human being, and to see him do this, I think NXT is the best fit for him.
So what's next? You said, Dave, he's not the underdog anymore. What do you do with him going forward? Shane, what would be the role, the position, the story, if you will, that you would have Drake Maverick continue to tell or start to tell after now this chapter is complete?
I wouldn't say he's not the underdog anymore. I disagree with that. Was a world heavyweight champion a couple of times, and he's still the underdog in just about every match he goes into. You know, so I wouldn't hang my hat on that he can't be an underdog anymore. You know, I just think that I would try to capitalize on how likable he is right now, because he is an incredibly likable person. You immediately like him, and I don't know anybody that's ever had a bad word to say about him. So figure out a way to capitalize on that popularity right now, because right now, you know, he is a sentimental favorite. You know, so and once you can capture that spirit in such an organic fashion, you know, there's something really to work with there.
When Al Snow was over in the UK when TNA, I think it was their UK version of the gut check, and you know, Al told me that, you know, Rockstar Spud had won it. I'm like, well, I saw a picture. I'm like, this guy won. This is the guy TNA is going to bring in. That's going to be like the big game changer. I go, how? I go, he's so small. And Al's like, his talent and his charisma is bigger than you can imagine. He goes, he has it. He goes, he has what it takes to be a star. He just has to be given the opportunity. And, you know, he's been given opportunity in WWE, but never like on purpose. It's always been opportunity by default with him. And right now he's showing how good and charismatic and likable he can talk. He can do anything. And he sold his ass off last night in that match. You honestly believed he was getting killed.
Shane, you were backstage. You were a producer with WWE. Are those things true that Dave said? I believe them to be. Obviously, you know, we've seen Drake Maverick go so far in so many companies, but it was a bit of a wheel spinning situation in WWE in that first run. What was the problem? Why was he not found and used rather in more prominent roles while he was in WWE for his first time? Looks like
man, if I could answer that question with any clarity, I'd probably make a lot of people very happy. Can you guys hear me?
yes.
Yep. There you are.
Well, I was saying, if I can answer that question with any clarity, I'd make a lot of people very happy. Sometimes there's no rhyme, no reason to why WWE does what they do with certain guys. You know, I sympathize a lot with Drake in what Dave just said, that sometimes opportunities just kind of happen and, you know, you run with them. You know, I think I've discussed about this show. I never really got a push. I got a pat on the ass. You know, and then out of that pad, I had to create scenarios for myself that, you know, kind of made a push happen, so to speak. So I understand what he went through, but he had the talent. You know, he's a very small person. So, you know, he got put in 205. And then in 205, he was a manager because he could talk so well. He talked so much better than everybody else. They made him the general manager. So, of course, that kind of limits what he's doing in the ring. You know, he got some good screen time in terms of what 205 Live was putting out, but you know, of course that it too has its limitations. But he just needs screen time. I think what he did with the 24/7 thing was incredible. Him and Truth made those segments what they were with very little direction. A lot of the stuff he did with the 24/7 was him, you know, all him. And so he's shown time and time again what kind of asset he can be, and maybe finally WWE is catching on to that.
So let me ask you this, Shane. What's the difference? You hear people who are said to be complainers, people who are never satisfied and have ideas and they bring them and then they're never used. And it seems like we're saying the same thing occurred with not only Drake, but you just said you got a pat on the ass and you ran with it. What is the difference between running with it and having ideas to present and those who are viewed as doing so favorably versus those who are viewed as pains in the ass for doing the same thing?
I mean, a lot of it's presentation and how you present these ideas. Well, number one, the ideas have to be good because there are people that present a lot of ideas, but if the ideas aren't good, that doesn't mean, hey, let me offer you a lot of really bad ideas. That's not really helping me out. So the ideas have to be good. Sometimes it's presentation, how you come off if you're a complainer, if you're a whiner, if every segment a producer goes to a talent and the talent, if their first reaction is to complain about the segment, that's going to send a bad message. And that message generally makes its way up the ranks to the higher of ups. So it's just a constant. I mean, it's a work environment, no matter, it isn't just WWE or make your work environment different. He had a great personality. I was generally liked. He's liked.
I'm convinced that there must be an outage somewhere.
Things for the most.
It looks like Shane we're having difficulty here, unfortunately. And you're right, Dave. Up here, out here on the East Coast, we did have a huge series of storms pass through last night. And for the first time ever, this has never happened to me, my cell service was out for 24 hours.
Well, but I don't know if you're aware, a bunch of, I believe it's Comcast and some other big cable company, they had outages all over the place yesterday.
Huh.
And it
that's
was
normal to have a cable outage, but like your cell phone?
Right, but I don't know. I mean, who knows if they're all married together or whatnot, but that was from Indiana going out east. So it was quite the nightmare for a lot of people.
So you just don't like the Eastern time zone?
No, because it's inconvenient for me. It's an hour later.
So as Shane was talking there, Dave, it looks like we got Shane back now, but Dave, to that point of the reputation of being a complainer versus the reputation of being a contributor, how fine is that line backstage?
You know what? There's been quite a few talents that ride that line really close. It really depends on if you're making the company money or not. Because if you're not selling tickets or merchandise or a draw or popping a rating for your segment, if you're complaining, you're just bitching, and they'll find somebody else. But if you're making money and it's worth everyone's while to tweak things for you because it's what the people want, then there's no issue whatsoever.
Welcome back, Shane. I think we've got you visually now. Do we have you completely?
I'm here.
Welcome. What's going on with your connection down there in North Kakalaki?
I don't know. I do these all the time. I'm kind of noticing a pattern with this show.
Oh, believe me.
And I noticed that y'all blame it on me.
Our technical issues are many.
Problem show.
It's always actually, we don't blame it on you. There is only one person to take any blame for any connectivity issues on this show, and that is David Hero.
But I'm always connected. But not. Hey, listen. So far today, my square right here has been fantastic.
It's hip to be square, huh?
Yes.
Hey, has anyone done a Zoom Hollywood Squares concept yet?
I hope not.
What's wrong with Hollywood Squares? It's a good show.
Circle gets the square.
Charles Nelson Riley.
Anyway, let's get back on track. What the hell were we talking about?
We were talking about Drake Maverick, the difference between being a contributor and a complainer backstage. But let's put the end on that particular chapter of this episode. Drake Maverick now in NXT. He's got a contract. He's back. What do you immediately do with him, Dave Hero?
Oh, he has to be on TV going forward. You can't take him off TV right now because he has the most momentum of pretty much everybody on the NXT brand. He's the guy that ended the show. He was in the main event spot. He had the big emotional hug and the contract with Triple H. Well, that means the fans want to see more of that. So he needs to come out next week, thank everybody, and go right into a program. Hey, he's number one contender. He deserves a rematch right now. And that's where he has to go.
Shane, what do you do immediately next with Drake Maverick?
I agree with Dave. You keep that ball rolling. We had the, so that story it didn't have a definitive end. It didn't have a definitive finish. So I would run with that and see where it goes and try to keep that babyface momentum rolling with him.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. NXT had more than just Drake Maverick, though, last night on the USA Network. In fact, we found out that coming up at NXT TakeOver in Your House, the championship match between Adam Cole and Velveteen Dream will be a backlot brawl. So we've seen now from both companies what can be done more creatively and more interestingly in the current situation without an audience and doing studio shows, if you will. This now a backlot brawl between these two stars. We knew it was going to be a good match going into it, but what dimension, if any, does this add to the stipulation, rather, or this concept add to the matchup? Shane?
We're going to have to see what kind of tricks they can pull out. Both of these guys, I'm a fan of their in-ring work. I don't really see them as, brawlers type guys. When I see these two guys, I'm more interested in what they do inside the ring. We're going to find out, add some new layers to them, so see what new tricks they got up their sleeve if you want to turn a wrestling match into a backlot brawl.
Dave, what do you say about this?
I think it's a great way with a backlot brawl. I think it helps hide the bumps and bruises that the Dream still he still may have. I know he's been hurt for a little while. This can protect him. It's also a way of getting the Undisputed Era involved in the match, as well as Dexter Lumis. I mean, he's the perfect guy to be in a match like this because he's just such an oddball. But again, my concern is if you keep doing these quote unquote cinematic matches, they're not going to be special anymore. They're going to get old because each one now has to outdo the other. And this will be now the fourth or fifth match like this since WrestleMania. So that's a concern that I think they may have. But
you don't think there's an audience for them? They can't be different? I mean, that's almost like saying every wrestling match is going to be the same and get old.
But what I'm saying is eventually, imagine if they had Money in the Bank on every pay-per-view. If there's a ladder match on every pay-per-view, well, it's not going to be special anymore. And eventually, when they do go back to touring live, how can you pull off an entire cinematic match like that when you have a live audience?
Shane, what do you say?
I agree with what he's saying, and I understand that point of view. I just want the Velveteen Dream to come to the ring in those rollerblades because that's really what I remember most. That was the weirdest video package I think I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I hope that sometimes guys remember that we're still selling people beating each other up. And when I saw him just rollerblading around, I was like, there's nothing about this that makes me want to see this match at all. But then they followed it up with a very nice video package. The one where Velveteen's talking into the mirror and we see Prince and all of that. And then I really got into it. But the first one, Velveteen rollerblading around, I had no idea what the hell I was watching or why that would entice me to watch two guys beat each other up.
Exactly, especially when he's hugging that pole. So I don't know, I didn't get it. But, talking about guys beating each other up, Shane, one of the things I've noticed, and I guess it really was glaring for me last night, going back and forth between both shows, it seems like the crowd, the talent around the ring on both shows, sells more than the talent does in the ring. Yeah, I mean, I'm covering their faces and moving back and all that kind of stuff. And then you watch the guys in the ring just pop back up and, you know, go to the next spot. So hopefully that changes soon too.
Yeah, the lack of good selling from a story perspective is, you know, we're in the video game era. You know, you get as many moves in as you can in what minutes you're allowed. You know, and which is strange because when you watch, you know, when we've seen just selling, that's still where the emotion comes from. You know, I've said it a million times. Taking a move isn't selling. Selling is what comes after the move. But it's just a weird time, you know, and that's something that has to be addressed from the company. It has to be addressed by the trainers, the producers and stuff like that. And if it's not, then the product is never going to get better in that particular term.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Shane, when you would hit somebody with the vertebreaker, and if they were to pop up right away, how would you feel about that? Because when I first saw that the first time, I legit thought you were killing people because it looked that devastating.
You know, I mean, that was a move that I wanted to protect. So, you know, you get hit with that one time and it's it. And that's why, you know, that's why I made it work. I mean, I guess I probably would have tried to get through the match without strangling them, but in the back, we'd have a conversation.
Because right now, the Canadian Destroyer is a transition move. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, it makes absolute. When you saw that Canadian Destroyer for the first time, you're like, oh my God, he's dead. There's no way he gets up from that.
Who originated that move? Was that P.D. Williams? I know he made it popular, but who originated it?
It's Petey. I think Petey gets a lot of the credit, but I feel like Amazing Red had something to do with it. But, you know, I mean, please feel free to fact check me on that. But, you know, it's just like I made the vertebrae.
I'll never
popular,
do that.
But please do. You know, I made the vertebrae popular, but it's actually a Japanese move called the Kudo driver. So, but yeah, but I think of PD. But yeah, it's just one of those moves, like, you know, especially, you know, if you take a company like AEW right now that is growing, you know, it's a newer company, it's growing. Anytime you got a new company, you always have to keep in your mind that you're going to get new viewers, new casual viewers. On their head 10 times, and then they get up like nothing hurts. Okay, you've told me that nothing hurts. And that's when I keep flipping. I think that's when casual viewers keep flipping the channel.
You know, it's interesting you made that point, Shane. I was actually talking to a colleague today who is a casual wrestling fan, knows of WWE. So when NXT is on, since it's a WWE affiliated product, that's what he and his family watches. Well, he said that last night, actually, they tuned over to AEW for a little while. And you could see it on his face where it was like, you know, that was a little different. And it seemed like it was more fun. And he was coming to that realization in that conversation. And I think that risk that you guys just identified is definitely there. But that casual fan, while AEW, I don't think has done enough to reach out to the casual fan. I think Tyson's going to help him in that regard. But when they do tune in, again, this is anecdotal from one person, when they do tune in, it does have that different feel and that different flair. But what's happening bell to bell does still matter. And what's happening bell to bell is devastating finishing maneuvers, just like the Canadian Destroyer, are now transitional moves, as you said, David, in a matchup. And I don't know how long-term sustainable that is.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And too, like, I know when I watch AEW, it's brighter. It does seem like a funner show. You know, NXT seems like it's in a dungeon. You know, AEW, you know, in terms of which show, like I think I talked about Dave last week. Like last week, I wanted to watch AEW more. I had more interest in it. I think the NXT show, Bell to Bell, might have been a little bit of a better product. But I'm still like that this week with AEW. Like that's the one I want to watch first. You know, it is funner, it's fresher, it's brighter right now. And like I said, when I'm watching NXT, even the emotion for the Drake match that I had, I'm still watching in a dungeon. You know, it's dark and it's kind of gloomy, and maybe it's just that's stuck to me more than ever. But
you know, we're going to be the booker for NXT Takeover tomorrow night, as we talked about. But Dave, I know this one's very near and dear to your heart as we get back to NXT. Keith Lee, the NXT North American champion. You're a big fan of his, Dave, and
yes,
we saw him in a tag team matchup, which came out of the Brawl to open the show, where he teamed with Maya Yim and took on Johnny Gargano, his opponent, on it, and Candice LeRae. But you seem to have some challenges from what I heard you saying on PWR Today, our podcast earlier today, with how
a lot of challenges
is being presented. So let's hear your questions and your reasoning, and then let's hear from you, Shane, as to maybe the why that we're not seeing.
Well, first of all, it's not a question. I'm going to state a fact, okay? Rewind to the Royal Rumble. Brock Lesnar's in the ring, killing everybody. Looks unbeatable like Doomsday and Superman. Out comes Keith Lee, and Brock Lesnar has never, with facial expressions, body language, ever sold for anybody the way he did for Keith Lee. He made Keith Lee a star by walking to the ring. And they went at it toe-to-toe, okay? Everybody came up for it. Everyone was looking forward to it. Like, okay, the battle of the two biggest bulls in the yard. Fast forward to NXT. I have a hard time believing that Johnny Gargano does anything to intimidate Big Keith Lee. And for a guy that was able to go toe-to-toe with Brock Lesnar, I have a hard time believing that Johnny Gargano is going to pose any threat whatsoever to Big Keith Lee.
Well, there you have it. So, Shane, what do you think?
There's a lot there that I can't disagree with.
But here's one point that I think needs to be inserted into that for fair assessment: the pandemic. So we don't know what the plans were maybe for Keith Lee going into or coming out of WrestleMania. We don't know if that was to accelerate further. We don't know those things. So while we judge it at face value, we have to look at the current situation and place that into the mix too, I think, Shane.
Yeah, I totally agree. So all of these shows were kind of, grading on the curve, the pandemic curve, so to speak. But, that being said, if we have to go with Gargano and Keith Lee, they just touched. Brock is putting over the size of Keith Lee more than this very teeny tiny human being is. And that is a glaring point to me. If I'm going to fight somebody that's the size of Spike Dudley, I'm going to go into that fight with an entirely different mentality as if I'm going to fight somebody the size of Big Show. Mm-hmm. And I did wrestle those guys. And I went at them with two different mindsets because that's what's called situational wrestling. He's just really not making wise. I would be petrified if I had to fight Keith Lee. And everybody should. I thought if you watched last night, watch how Cameron Grimes, when he wrestled Bronson Reed, he wrestled him like, okay, this is a big dude that could potentially hurt me. He wrestled him like a big guy. I see a lot of little guys that they wrestle big guys the same way they wrestle little guys, and they don't even realize how the perception of that. If I'm not afraid of Godzilla, then what does Godzilla really mean?
And how can
the whole thing about the boogeyman is that you're afraid of the boogeyman. If you're not afraid of the boogeyman, then he's not the boogeyman anymore.
Yeah, and I just don't know how it can be a competitive match unless Keith Lee, his knee goes out early on. It's just, I don't know, because Gargano has never come across as a giant killer kind of guy because NXT has never truly been the land of the giants. So now you bring in.
They did the thing with the hand. So Keith Lee could be going in injured with that. They kicked, I don't know if you saw that, they kicked steps into the hand. And that was a pretty creative way in which they did that. So they got that, but if he's got the hand hurt, if he's got the knee hurt, and during the course of this match, so to speak, we can chop Keith Lee down even more somehow. That's how that story has to play out in my mind.
You've got to make him vulnerable, you're saying. Make him vulnerable for the seemingly less, not less skilled, but the competitor that seemingly doesn't have the size and strength that Keith Lee has. Is that what you're saying, Shane?
Yeah, without a doubt. Chop him down. You got to chop down that big oak.
But he has to do it as a villain, as he's cheating. Because if he does it without anything dastardly, Well, that just shows he's tougher and smarter than Keith Lee, the current, NXT North American champion.
Well, I can't
Yeah,
wait.
and the thing is too, he's a wrestler. You know, we haven't seen. So I'm not saying it's not there. Maybe we just haven't seen him yet. Because remember, Roddy Piper was a lot smaller than Hulk Hogan. Roddy Piper found a way to chop the big guy down and still make you hate him at the same time. So it can be done. It can be done. We're just going to have to see, can it be done by Gargano in that situation?
But Piper wasn't 2 feet shorter than Hogan.
There we go. See, Shane, remember, Dave's got a problem with the quote-unquote small guys.
No, but
kids, he calls them.
I mean, it's such a huge size difference. It's huge. I mean, yeah, Hogan was 300 pounds and Piper was 240. But Piper was also the guy that smashed a coconut on Jimmy Snuka's head and was violently vicious. I haven't seen violent out of Gargano.
What you're saying right now, though, Dave, a lot of fans only have seen clips of. They don't know the context by which you're providing that. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, it's a different time. As Shane said earlier, we're in the comic book wrestling or cartoon wrestling, video game wrestling, actually, phase of wrestling. And, it's interesting to make that point because wrestling has evolved. There were a lot of people, I would even call it 5, 6, 7 years ago, who were saying wrestling hasn't changed. In fact, our dear friend Al Snow used to say that wrestling hasn't changed. Fundamentally, wrestling hasn't changed. I don't think that can be said right now. If you look at wrestling in the 50s, you look at wrestling in the 70s, look at wrestling in the 80s, you look at wrestling today, there have been fundamental changes to whether it be David versus Goliath, competitors that are equally matched, competitors that are not equally matched. There has been a change. So that mentality, if you will, at least for me, from a fan's perspective, that mentality is a bit different. I am more interested and intrigued in a match where the smaller guy who is, I'm not necessarily viewing as an underdog, but the smaller guy is coming in against the bigger guy. And I don't really look at them tail of the tape side by side. I think more of, all right, does this guy have whatever it needs to be to psychologically and then physically defeat the opponent versus just man to man, comparing the statistics, the physical statistics of the performers.
Yeah, I know, and I've talked to me and Al have had this conversation a lot, and we butt heads quite a bit on certain things, but that's okay. That's why we shouldn't all agree on everything anyway. That's not what art is. But and Al's one of those guys you don't have to reinvent the wheel. He said that a million times. And my counter to that is, yeah, but people don't ride around in horse and buggies anymore either. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're updating that wheel. And we got Lamborghinis now. You know what I mean? So I just think that's what we're seeing today. The business definitely has changed in some aspects, but the fundamentals, the psychology, that sort of thing, that hasn't changed. Yep. Good versus evil, David versus Goliath, that sort of thing hasn't changed whatsoever. The environment's changed.
Well, we could talk about that for hours, by the way. Dave, that was.
I can't tell if y'all can even hear me or not anymore.
Oh, yeah. I hear you.
No, Dave's quiet because his theory's been shut down.
Not at all. It's been proven. I'm right. because sometimes David is Goliath, and that's Keith Lee.
All right. Well, we'll talk about the match between he and Gargano when we do be the booker tomorrow after SmackDown. But a couple of other matches, and one of note from NXT last night on the USA Network. We've got new number one contenders for the NXT Tag Team Championship, and I'm a bit surprised at this one, but I like it. Breezango gets the win, and now they are the next in line to go out after those NXT Tag Team Championship belts. What do you think, Dave?
Breezango, the Fashion Police, whatever you want to call them, the fans love them. And Tyler Breeze he is like an icon for NXT. So for him to come back again for the umpteenth time, I was shocked. I was like, they dusted these guys off, but again, they live in the Orlando area and they need them. I think Breezango is what they need right now because they have so many young tag teams, and Breezango is still a young tag team, but I think they can help them get better. And I think by bringing them into the program only helps all those tag teams that they currently have under contract.
What do you think of the new number one contenders, Breezango, Shane?
It was very interesting. Actually, tag team wrestling last night. Both companies made some good upward movement in the tag team division. Yeah, Breezango coming back was very neat. In that particular match, One stood out to me. He's a standout competitor, and when you have that many bodies out there, when I keep focusing on one guy, that always sends a message to my brain somewhere. There's something special with that guy. The new tag team that Malcolm, what's his last name? Because I'll get his shoot name mixed up with his gimmick name. But he brought the big guys out. I know those guys, they're very intimidating guys. So Breezango helps in terms of name value, because the champions being Imperium right now, especially the way they won the belts, to me, there's not a lot of steam on them. They're actually the least they're the tag team I'm interested in the least. As the champions, I feel like they should be the ones I have at least some good interest in. But I think Breezango coming back, if that was your question.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy to see Breezango. They're a fan favorite, and right now they got to do whatever they can to get more fans to come back and start watching.
Another thing of note that happened on NXT last night, Karrion Kross attacks Cameron Grimes after he defeated Bronson Reed. What are your thoughts as of this week on Karrion Kross? We'll start with you, Shane.
No, he attacked Bronson.
You're right. My apologies. Yes.
Cameron made the wise move and got the hell out of there. Very smart. And something that small, because Cameron Grimes is a heel, that's perfect. He sees this killer, who's I'm guessing a heel, and since we're talking about Karrion, I do want to say Tommaso had an incredible promo at the beginning of the show, or whatever, the first hour, incredible promo, probably my favorite promo of the week. But Cameron Grimes seeing this threat, I don't want no part of that, bounced out of there, and then Karrion Kross gets the business done with Bronson Reed. Already beaten down opponent, which is but it's impressive just because of how big he is. So
exactly.
That particular segment was very well done. Very well done. A lot was accomplished in such a short amount of time with that segment.
Because the last few weeks, Karrion Kross has gone out there and crushed everyone that's been smaller than him. Now he goes out there to a guy that's physically bigger. Well, now it's like, how can Tommaso Ciampa stop this guy? So.
But it's also too, but like I said, it was a bigger guy that was beaten down. Like, that's perfect. Like, him beating up smaller guys, like, it's impressive, but at the same time, it's like, it's kind of prickish because you're beating up that smaller opponent. So there's that heel element to it. Now he comes out and he beats up a bigger guy. Impressive, but he was already beaten down. So it is very well done.
Yes. Yeah. Total heel.
NXT last night, your overall thoughts. How would you summarize the episode, Dave Hero?
It just felt like, again, the show. I mean, they did great things with Karrion Kross. Okay, Cameron Grimes, I think he's the guy under the radar to a lot of wrestling fans, and I think he's surprising a lot of people. And then you go with Drake Maverick. For a show that seemed like it was stuck in neutral quite a bit, they did hit the accelerator at least 3 different times. I think it was a solid B show. I wouldn't say it was an A, but definitely, 3.5 to 4 out of 5. They did their business going into their pay-per-view on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. I'm more interested now in Io Shirai. The video promo they did with her underwater, I thought that was incredibly cool. The Tommaso promo that did what a promo is supposed to do, get you interested in the match. That's what a promo does. It's a short promotion. That's what it's supposed to be about. Get me more interested in this match. I think the weaker match of the thing is going to be the Keith Lee Gargano, but that is what it is. But I think overall, NXT had a lot of a lot of bright spots last night, despite being a very darker show.
Bright spots in the middle of the night.
You
know what? I do say I did feel terrible for our good friend Robert Stone. He just seems like he's lost all over again.
But that fills me with glee. That fills me with glee. And also, I do got to say, Kyle O'Reilly's, my compliments to the chef. That little thing, I watched that part at least 3 or 4 times, just rewinding that part. He really tickled me on that one. So it was an enjoyable show.
All right, well, it's time to move on and talk about NXT, which also had a lot of activity on there.
AEW.
AEW, exactly. Thank you, David. But before we do that, I do want to give you boys the opportunity to share with the world just what it is your T-shirts say today and how the fans out there can get their hands on the same. Dave?
Well, for me, I'm just absolutely living the dream, and you can get the dream yourself at collarandelbowbrand.com. You can use the promo code PWR360. We got some very, very cool merchandise. We got some shorts coming soon. We got hats. We got jackets. We got T-shirts.
Any skirts?
Yeah. No, that we don't have. No skirts.
collarandelbowbrand.com, I believe you said, right?
Yes.
And Shane, well, stand back. There's a hurricane coming through, huh?
Oh, definitely. Stand back. This shirt has never been more appropriate in the history of the country right now than it is, or in the history of my career than it is right now. Stand back at least 6 feet. It's available in 3 colors. You got the dark green, you got the bright hurricane green, you got black. It's also available at collarandelbowbrand.com. And I believe there's promo codes. I believe y'all's promo code will apply to this too. So.
Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. So we got lots of amazing shirts to choose from. And of course, the Shad Gaspard shirt, where 100% of the proceeds from that shirt go straight to Shad's family.
Well, last night, AEW Dynamite on TNT. Big announcement, big debut, at least from a promo standpoint, and the first defense of the TNT Championship. Cody taking on Jungle Boy in the main event. This one went in a very different direction than a lot of people thought it would. It was a bit of a bloodbath. I mean, tables involved, all kinds of different elements in that matchup. Not quite what I expected, but it was indeed something I liked. Shane, how did this match strike you in the first outing of defending the TNT Championship for Cody?
You said you didn't like the match?
I did. It wasn't what I expected, but I did like it.
No, I thought it was good. I think it served what I thought it was going to serve last week. I think Cody's going to have great matches that are going to elevate all of these competitors and make them look good. Jungle Boy, I think the company still needs to do a better job in certain terms of, if I got a character named Jungle Boy and he wrestles just like any other wrestler, why is he Jungle Boy? I don't understand. If I'm a first-time viewer, I want to know why this guy is Jungle Boy, what that means, why he's got those boots on, what's happening here. Cody is kind of self-explanatory. He's the champion. But if your name is Jungle Boy, I need to know why. You know what I mean? So, that being said, I thought that match was great. I really enjoyed it.
It's interesting you make that point. It's a point that everybody's friend Jim Cornette has made a lot of times about Excalibur on commentary. Explain why he's wearing the mask. We talked about the casual viewers. I don't know why Jungle Boy is Jungle Boy, to be honest. I don't even know. But, aside from him having long hair, your point is incredibly valid. Where's that explanation? What does that mean? Why is that his name? And I think they get a little confused at times, too. Not necessarily confused, but maybe they lack direction as to what they want to present him as, because they talk about him being Luke Perry's child as well, and that confuses me even more.
Why does that confuse you, Nate?
Well, because now it's like, all right, well, wait, here's
what happens. A man and a woman get together.
Oh.
Out of that union, generally, children pop out.
Well, but wait a minute. But if it's a Jungle Boy, maybe it wasn't both of those things together. Maybe it was something else that hooked up. Who knows?
It confuses me even more because, okay, you're telling me this is Luke Perry's kid. Tell me how Luke Perry's kid didn't go into acting and went into wrestling. Tell me why he's Jungle Boy. Tell me why, all the whys I don't know, and give me that character depth, because once the high spots are over, that character depth is going to matter, David.
Well, here's what truly happened. So Luke Perry and his wife had young Jungle Boy, but they didn't want him. So they left him out in the wilderness, and he was raised by wolves, okay? And it's like he lived off of the bare necessities and all that other kind of stuff. And then he finally found his way back to civilization.
You're making this up, I hope.
Of course not. I read it online.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, they're definitely getting Jungle Boy ready. He's a good-looking young kid. They're going to get him. They're going to mold him the way they want him to be. Shane is absolutely right. Why is he Jungle Boy? He doesn't do anything jungle-ish. If that's even a word, I have no idea. But I was surprised how
and this
violent.
would have been.
Oh, go ahead.
Looks like a little bit of delay there. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I mean, for me, I was surprised how violent the match was. I mean, that when I saw, and of course, I was watching more of the Drake Maverick match. I was surprised to see Cody was bleeding. I was like, good God, what could happen between a Jungle Boy and Cody Rhodes where that would happen? It didn't. I was surprised. I'm like, did Lance Archer run down there? Did Shawn Spears hit him with the glove already? Was MJF with the? I was just surprised how quickly Cody got some color in that match. But they're doing a great job. They're trying to elevate stars. And Shane, like you said, Jungle Boy is going to exactly do that. He is going to elevate stars. And next week we'll see if he can do it again.
Well, AEW also with a big announcement regarding Fyter Fest. We talked about this last week on this program. We didn't know what it was going to be. We didn't know if that was where we were going to be seeing Tyson versus Jericho. It appears that now we are, perhaps. And now announcing that AEW that Fyter Fest is going to occur over the course of 2 nights, July 1st and July 8th on TNT. And it will be their biggest event of the summer, Tony Khan saying that. And it looks as if, they're going to do that. And they're going to have it take place, like I said, in place of Dynamite over the course of those 2 weeks. And it looks like that will be where we see Tyson and Jericho finally meet up.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever. I don't know why you wouldn't want to try to make as much money as you can off of Mike Tyson, because you are paying retail for him for every appearance he makes. So unless they're just looking to make a huge splash and get tons of viewers on a Wednesday night, hoping that those numbers keep going forward, going up, for me, it just seems very risky to have that kind of match on free TV on a Wednesday night.
What do you think, Shane?
I agree. I mean, I kind of sort of agree. Maybe there's pay-per-view business involved. Like if you got Tyson on a pay-per-view, maybe his price tag goes up.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
But I can see that being the case, though.
Here's my big concern: is
also
everybody?
Too, I would like to have Tyson because they're.
Go ahead, Shane.
Go ahead. Yeah, there's a slight delay there, but go ahead.
I think it's an extended delay.
Yeah.
We're almost at the 1 hour mark. I think the gods are asking us to end this show. That's what's happening. That's why we can't maintain a stable connection here. Or Dave, if you just plug in and unplug, maybe that'll work.
Yep. Shane, are you back?
I'm here. I can. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. If we're talking about the Tyson thing, if AEW is still recording live every other week, I would much rather have Tyson on a tape show than a live show.
Absolutely. I agree 125 million% on that, because you can at least control it so you don't have that disaster you had last week. But my concern is wrestling fans on Thursdays around 3 or 4 o'clock, at least Milwaukee time, they're looking for those ratings, those numbers. They want to see who won the Wednesday Night War. So Mike Tyson versus Chris Jericho is on a Wednesday night on free TV. You better hope those numbers jump at least 30%, because if it doesn't, then you can tell that the wrestling business is very kabuki-ish, and Mike Tyson wasn't worth the investment.
Not worth the investment. That's one hell of an investment. And that was interesting. My computer did something weird here. It was one hell of an investment. But as I said, we're running out of time. Let's go through real quickly the rest of what happened on AEW. Kenny Omega and Adam Page defending Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc to retain the AEW Tag Team Championships. Brian Cage, though, with Taz, defeated Shawn Dean. Shawn Dean, less important than what happened after the match, or I'm sorry, during the match and then after the match when Jon Moxley had words to say. Brian Cage Moxley also appears to be locked in for Fyter Fest. Your quick thoughts on the progression of that, Shane Helms?
I mean, they're moving fast with it. Brian Cage again attacking his opponent before the bell drove me nuts. I don't know why they keep doing stupid things like that add nothing and just make your referee look bad and your company look bad. But once the match was over and we had the face-off with Moxley, I generally hate face-offs when nothing happens. To me, if you're building this monster in Brian Cage and you can just sit there and go talk face and he doesn't beat him. That being said, notice Moxley isn't a small human being. That Brian Cage and hold his own with him. So I love the use of Taz in this scenario. I love the red towel. Shout out to Antonio Inoki, I'm assuming.
And Dave, your thoughts on – sorry, Shane, it looks like we lost your audio. We apologize for that. We'll try to get that fixed. But, Dave, your thoughts on FTR, Tony Schiavone asking them what that meant, what FTR means. And can you hear me?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought that they did a great job of finally answering that question, and they didn't answer it. It's like it's whatever we want it to be, which is perfect.
Tony Schiavone did suggest that maybe it meant F the revival.
Well, of course, but we didn't truly hear that because I heard a bunch of bleeps and everything else. But FTR, they're doing it right with them. They're slowly going to bring them on. They're letting the audience know who they are. They're introducing them the right way, not putting them in matches. Make the people wait to see them. We got plenty of time, so let's just take it easy and have them slowly work into a program.
Well, AEW Dynamite, it's interesting what we did over the course of the last 2 weeks. Last week, heavy on AEW. This week, heavy on NXT. So let the fans decide. Tell us which one you want to hear more about here on this Thursday night edition of the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. And we'll try to focus our efforts in that regard. But tomorrow night, it is going to be all about NXT again. And they have a big pay-per-view event, TakeOver in Your House, coming to us this weekend, and we will be doing Be the Booker for that. So can't wait to hear what you guys, how you two, Shane and Dave, would book the show and how you would present that event from NXT, their takeover event, with a little tribute to the past within your house. So with that, thank you guys for joining us. Remember, subscribe to us here on YouTube if you're watching us there. Also, like us on Facebook, and also follow us on Twitter at Damian Nelson, at Shane Helmscom, at David Hero, and at PWR360. And we will look forward to seeing you again tomorrow night with a bonus episode. Be the Booker returns for NXT TakeOver in Your House. So long, everybody.